Welcome to our Sound for Video session. Today is the 16th of December 2018, and today we're going to talk about timecode. Now, for those who are not familiar with timecode, what it is and how it works, I have a couple of things. Number one, at a very high level, what this allows you to do is that you can now record your audio for your film separate to an audio recorder from your camera. And then what this does is it makes it very easy to sync up the video clips and the audio clips in post. So that's the whole purpose of timecode. And I want to just say a couple of things about this. I've worked with some DPs and on some projects where they weren't that familiar with the whole concept of timecode, and they were going to be the ones doing the post work. And, you know, I think for someone who has done enough post work, if it's a relatively short piece, there are not a lot of clips to sync, it's no big deal. Don't necessarily need timecode in those circumstances. But if you're shooting a narrative film and you come home from the shoot with, 60, 100 different clips on both the camera and the audio recorder, well, then it does become a bit more of a problem to sync all those up. And that's where timecode can help you. You can literally drop all the video files, all the audio files into an application, push a button, they're all synced up and put into a timeline. You export an XML, that goes into your nonlinear editor or video editing app, and you're set to go and start editing. So that can really, really simplify the process and make it, frankly, a lot more fun and a lot less tedious in post. So that's the idea. If you'd like to see a demonstration of how it works, I will put a link for a previous video that we did with a demo using, in particular, the Tentacle Sync E, which is this one right here. So go watch that if you're not familiar with the concept. The most common question I get is, well, I'm going to be doing a 2-camera shoot and I have an audio recorder. How many of these do I need to buy? Or how many of these, how many timecode generators do I need to buy? You need one for each recording device. You need one for your audio recorder and one for each camera. Now, some higher-end audio recorders have inbuilt timecode generators. The examples I can think of, right off the top of my head, the Zoom F4, the Zoom F8, the Zoom F8N, and the MixPre 10T from Sound Devices. Keep in mind the MixPre 6 and 3 do not have inbuilt timecode generators, so you would have to buy one of these for those as well. So hopefully that kind of gets you on your way. Now what I want to do in this session is talk about specific timecode generators that I've used, and in some cases we'll talk about a couple that I haven't used yet, but that I have a little bit of information on. And so let's kind of just dive in and talk about each of them, kind of their feature set, so on and so forth. So first up, the Tentacle Sync E. This is the second generation Tentacle Sync timecode generator from a company called Tentacle Sync. This one runs about $289 per timecode generator. And it has an inbuilt battery that lasts up to 35 hours. In my test, that's definitely held up. And it also has a USB-C input, which you can see here, which is used for charging the battery, for updating the firmware, changing the settings if you need to do it without a mobile device. You can change the settings on this one using an app on both iOS and Android. It also has a microphone built in. That's especially useful if you're going to be feeding timecode to a camera that does not have a timecode input. And in most cases, that's going to be something like a mirrorless camera or a DSLR, where you have a 3.5 millimeter stereo input. What that will do is it'll send timecode to the left channel, and it will send the audio from this microphone to the right channel. The reason that's useful is if for some reason the timecode isn't working out, you bungled the settings or something like that, you still have some reference audio you can use to sync things up. So that can be helpful there. It can also be helpful in circumstances where you want to take a quick look at the video clips. You want to mute the right channel that has the timecode. It sounds like the old school modems that you used to use to connect to the internet when we use dial-up. So it's really annoying to listen to be honest, but you can mute that left channel and then you can hear what was recorded on set through this microphone on the right channel. So that's a pretty nice thing as well. The wireless app is actually quite nice. I've used it on iOS. It allows you to change all the settings, but it also allows you to monitor all of your Tentacle Sync E's while you're on set to confirm that they're all still in sync with each other, which is really important. And on the latest generation of the app, you can actually push a button and it will re-jam all of them together, which is super nice as well. So that means that after lunch or dinner, on set, rather than having to go to all of the individual timecode generators. Say you're doing a 3-camera shoot or something like that, you can actually just pull out your app, push a button, and they all get rejammed, which is super nice. So they'll be perfectly in sync. You can also monitor the battery status of each, so you can know ahead of time if you're getting low on battery and you need to do something about that. You do still need a cable, of course, to sync to most cameras, and you have a 3.5mm output here. And this comes with a 3.5mm to 3.5mm TRS cable, so you can sync right out of the box with the, mirrorless cameras or DSLRs. And you can also, of course, buy all of the other cables you might need to connect to proper cinema cameras. So those are all available. 2-year warranty on this, and we'll have a table here with a link that you can access to get all of these details later on if you're interested in doing that. Next up is the Ambient recording NanoLockit. This is a small wireless timecode generator system. Very simple. Here you can see on the top we have the output, so you have the various cables that you can use to connect to your cameras or audio recorder. You can see a little antenna here which allows you to wirelessly jam sync multiple NanoLockits together, which is really nice. It also has an inbuilt battery that lasts up to 35 hours, so easily probably 2 production days without a problem. And it does have a micro USB input on the bottom here to recharge that inbuilt battery. This runs about $299 US per timecode generator. Let's see, in terms of accuracy, Ambient says that it drifts less than 1 frame per day in an autonomous mode. They also say that there's 0 drift if you have the active jamming feature with the rest of their larger Locket systems. So if you have one of their larger Locket wireless sort of base station type things, you can always keep this in sync because it'll be communicating wirelessly and rejamming constantly. So really nice. User interface is these 3 buttons here. There is also a cheat sheet that comes with it that makes it easy for you to remember what those are. I always struggle to remember what they are, but with that cheat sheet in my sound bag, it's very easy to figure out what each of them mean and how to operate it. So it's nice. You don't need a mobile phone, which is a plus and a minus. You get a kind of a more simple user interface, if you will, with just 3 buttons. But the nice thing is that you don't need a mobile phone. So if you're having problems with your phone, or you're using your phone for something else, or whatever the case may be, you've got these 3 buttons here to make the changes you need. It did come with a cable too. Same here. It came with, I think this is a 5-pin connector here, and then on the other end it had a TRS 3.5mm cable. So again, for working with DSLRs and mirrorless cameras out of the box, but you can of course buy cables to connect it to pretty much any type of camera that you'll be recording to. So again, the beauty of this one, it's wireless, it's simple, it's reasonably affordable, and I guess I have to say this is all relative. So you have to keep in mind, whenever I do a session on timecode, it seems like some people complain, oh, that's so expensive. Well, it's expensive if you are an independent filmmaker, you're not getting paid to make films or videos, and you have to self-fund everything. Yes, totally understand, not trying to sell you on this if that's your situation, and you're in a position where you can do the syncing by yourself, either manually or perhaps using an application like Pluralize or Syncala. Those are all perfectly legitimate. Of course, most nonlinear editors have the ability to take an individual audio clip and video clip and sync those together using either waveforms or timecode. So you have lots of options here. I'm not trying to sell anyone on anyone, but for those of you that are working on projects where you do have you're going to come home with a lot of media, and you do have the budget to support something like that, that's why I'm covering this. So just to be 100% clear on that. All right, next up we have the MozeGear TIG Q28. This is the first timecode generator I bought for my kit, and it's sort of in some ways it's sort of old school. I like it for that reason. This one actually was a little bit on the pricey side, $439 US. It takes 2 AAA batteries to power it, and that'll power it for about 16 hours. This one also has a couple of 3.5mm inputs here, and it has a LEMO output. It does not come with any of the cables, so you're on your own to go buy the cables for whichever camera you're going to be connecting it to. And then you have these switches here that allow you to change the settings. So you can set your frame rates, of course, and you can set your timecode level. So for example, if you're feeding timecode to a DSLR or to a mirrorless camera, you're going to want to send a microphone level signal. And then of course, if you're feeding to a dedicated timecode input, you're going to want to set that to line level because that's what it's expecting. Nice thing about this is it also has on the back sort of a cheat sheet built in, so you never lose your cheat sheet as long as you have your timecode generator, which is super nice. Very, very sturdy build. This is all machined aluminum, it looks like, and feels like. Very solid. The beauty of this one really is that it has switches, and it's just really, really simple. So that's the kind of the, I would say this is kind of a small no-fuss sync solution. It does come with a 2-year warranty. And again, this one's a little bit on the pricey side at $439. But there's another one, which I don't have here, which is also made by MozeGear. It's a more recent release called the TIG QBIT X2. It runs $199, so it's a less expensive one. It has an inbuilt battery that lasts up to 30 hours, and it has a DC barrel charge input, and you can actually also replace the battery if you need to. It's an NP50 battery, so it is actually user replaceable, which is nice. In terms of accuracy, it is accurate up to 1 frame. And it doesn't go out of sync any more than 1 frame within 24 hours. It also has switches just like this one here. It does not come with any cables. It does not have any wireless capabilities. And really, it's even smaller than this. I think it's more like in this size here. So really, I would call that, where this is a small no-fuss sync, the TIG QBIT X2 would be kind of a tiny no-fuss sync. It also has a 2-year warranty, and again, that'll be in the table if you're interested in looking at the details on that. Now, next up, all of the other items that you see here are from Timecode Systems. So the Pulse, UltraSync 1, UltraSync Blue, and the SyncBac Pros. That's what each of these are. This is just a sleeve here for the UltraSync 1 to go into to make it easy to mount to a camera. It has some hook tape on the back there, and it also a protective case there. All right, so Timecode Systems, I have a whole bunch of that gear here. What's unique about this? Well, this is really kind of an ecosystem and a wireless system as well. So the Pulse is sort of a base station. So this is if you're going to be working from a sound cart or a table or something of that nature. So that's going to be bigger productions. And this is sort of the master clock for your entire network of timecode generators. And I think where this is going to be most useful, again, is if you're working from a sound cart, where you've kind of got your control center as the mixer, and you can power this via a larger battery. The inbuilt battery is going to last about up to 8 hours, but a lot of times I find it, depending on what you're doing, you may want to go ahead and hook up to some power, and you have a 9 to 36 volt DC input on the back here, and you can also power via USB. This is a micro USB connector on the side. You can see there's some network ports on the side as well, so Ethernet. What's interesting about this one is obviously it's a highly accurate timecode generator, so it can also do GenLock and word clock. So those are 2 additional sort of syncing methods that are going to be used in higher end productions. Usually, for example, if you're shooting stereo cameras, you're going to need to use something like GenLock to make sure that the cameras capture each of their individual frames at the exact same time. And then this also transmits wirelessly the timecode signal to these other devices here. So it can transmit to the UltraSync 1, to the UltraSync Blue, and the SyncBac Pros. So what it does is rather than just jamming at the start of the day and then just, keeping your fingers crossed that these all stay in sync, 12 hours later, this is actually continuously jamming them. So it's sending out that signal and continuously keeping them all in sync. So you're not going to have a drift issue with that, which is really, really cool. UltraSync 1 is kind of, I would say, a little bit more akin to these other timecode generators in terms of how it works. It's meant to connect to an individual camera. Again, it can receive the wireless from the Pulse base station, but it can also act as a master clock itself. So for example, if you had 1 or 2 of these, plus some of these, plus some of these, this could also be the master clock if you weren't working on a bigger production where you wanted to use one of these. It has an OLED screen here and several buttons on the front that allow you to change the settings and get things set up and synced up. The next one here is the UltraSync Blue. The UltraSync Blue is really an interesting device, and it's the newest device to their overall system here. This is actually a Bluetooth wireless timecode generator. And this is made for sending timecode to mobile devices or any device that has a Bluetooth input. Currently, it can sync to just a few apps, but I think that what Timecode Systems is hoping is that other app developers will come on board at some point and also create within their apps the ability to receive timecode from the Timecode Systems UltraSync Blue. So I did a demonstration of that, and I'll put a link to that video in the upper left-hand or upper right-hand corner here, as well as down below, so you can see exactly how that works. So that's a pretty cool thing. So for example, I recorded audio with my iPad, and I recorded the video with my iPhone, and then this sent timecode to each of those, and then syncing them up in post was very, very simple. Again, just right-clicking on both of them and saying sync with timecode, and boom, they were all synced up and ready to go. Very cool little system. Now these two over here are kind of interesting as well. These are SyncBac Pros. These are made for working with GoPro cameras. So in reality TV, GoPros are kind of a staple. They use a lot of GoPros. I have a friend that shoots a reality show, and they were having a nightmare of a time getting everything synced up. And this is a perfect solution for that. They actually have a SyncBac Pro that works for the GoPro Hero 6. I believe this one works, and it may work with the 7 as well. I need to double check that. And this is one that works for the older GoPro 4s where they had this proprietary input there. So the newer one works via USB-C. So that makes things a little simpler. So you put one of those on your GoPro, and it'll send timecode and write the timecode into the video file so that when you get back into post, it's very easy to sync it up to your audio recording as well. Now, there's some additional features. So not only is this wireless in terms of keeping these all synced up all the time, you can also connect this to a couple of other things. You can connect it to an app that runs on your mobile device or on your Mac, and it's called Blink Hub. What that allows you to do is control all of these. So you can actually remotely start recording one of the GoPros from your laptop, which is really, really cool. Again, when you're working in something like reality TV shows, being able to plant the GoPros ahead of time is really important. And then when you're ready to start rolling, the sound mixer can actually start rolling the camera remotely, which is super nice. In addition to that, you can connect this up to the Sound Device's 600 series mixers, and you can actually control some of the metadata and things of that nature through the Blink Hub app as well. So it's really kind of an integrated solution if you're seeing what I mean here. It allows you to do lots and lots of stuff. So that's where I think Timecode Systems really shines, is that they've created this whole ecosystem of timecode solutions as opposed to kind of the more traditional timecode system or timecode devices, generators. So here's probably kind of the more old school, here's kind of newer school with wireless capabilities, and here's kind of a fully integrated system. So these are a little bit more expensive, of course. I think the Pulse base station runs about $900 US, and then the UltraSync 1 runs about $285, and the UltraSync Blue is $179. Don't remember the price on the SyncBac Pros, but we'll put links down for those below as well. Let's talk about one more that I don't actually have here, but I have friends that have used them, and that is the Betso TCX-2 Plus. This is a wireless timecode generator, just very much like the UltraSync 1. This one's a little bit different. It runs about $400 US. It runs on a AA battery for about 50 hours. So you have replaceable batteries as opposed to an inbuilt battery. Obviously very accurate timecode generator. So the spec says 0.2 ppm for 24 hours. So that means that you're not going to be out of sync more than a frame within 24 hours. Or if you're doing wireless sync between two of them, and again, it would be akin to having two of these, one of them will act as the master, one as a slave, and then those will stay in sync because they'll wirelessly jam continuously. So that works really well that way. It does have an OLED display and buttons on the unit to allow you to kind of control things. It does not come with any cables. What else can I tell you about it? It also does gen lock and word clock, just like the Timecode Systems does. So if you're doing, again, those higher end things where you need gen lock, which is a little bit, it's similar to timecode, but it's even, it allows you to do some additional things as well. It actually becomes the master clock, not just for the timecode generators, but it also becomes the master clock for the cameras and for the audio recorders. So that works a little bit differently, not something we're going to cover here in detail. And again, we'll put links for all of those in the file where I have kind of a comparison of each of these. So overall, I hope that was helpful for you in understanding some of the timecode generator options out there available on the market as of December 2018. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave those down below. Or if you have any insights on other things that we didn't cover here, feel free to share those as well. Hopefully our little community here can be a place where people can learn more about the different solutions that are available out there. So again, thanks for checking out this episode, and we will talk to you again soon.